Hi.
Hi.
I first want to just say thank you. You're part of you are the reason I'm part of Growth Day, and I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just amazing how these topics are just so relevant. Um, the topic of boundaries, especially in relation to phones, is something I've been working on very much in my life, and I'm doing really good with myself. I don't have a problem putting the phone away, but I'm also 48 years old, and for me, I kind of just miss those old days of no phones. My partner in life is 12 years my junior, and he is very much not uh, creating any boundary with the phone. And I try to share and express how it's taking away from us, but not getting very far. And I feel like we're almost 10 years in together, in 5 years where it's gotten pretty bad, where I just don't feel like there's any separation between him and the phone. So my question is, how do you have any advice on how I can, because it seems to always create argument, how can I, without just continuing to be
Mhm.
the representation of what I want,
Yeah.
how can I share with him how detrimental that is?
I just thank you for your honesty and for sharing this, because I think it's something that so many of us, like watching people's faces nod, struggle with, either personally, with your children, with relationships. There's nothing worse when you see people missing out on life because their eyes are down, right? It's like, look in front of you. Look at what's happening. Hello
Yes.
to you. Not to bring up Netflix again. I swear I don't watch a lot of Netflix, but The Social Dilemma. How many of you have watched The Social Dilemma?
Yes.
So one, I feel like both when my husband and I watched it, we were like, okay, I know all of this. Like, I'm a digital marketer. I know all of this, but seeing how these devices are built to create addiction is terrifying, right? Like, it's making us miss our lives. And so, one, I would just say, if he's willing to watch it with you and have a conversation after it.
Well, I'm actually a yoga therapist, and it's a big part of my job.
Right?
And I
Yeah.
have watched that documentary with him.
Yes.
And this is like a big conversation on what it does to the brain.
Yes.
And when we're in conversation, he gets it.
Yeah.
But then when he feels like I'm taking away his ability to relax.
So how can you introduce different ways to relax together? Where like phones cannot be, like kayaking, I'm thinking, like, you're not gonna bring your phone on a kayak, right? Like, no one's gonna risk losing that iPhone. What are creative ways, going on walks together? That was a huge thing for Drew and I, just to getting that movement together and being outside together, without requiring a phone, because you don't need it. And so, since you're a yoga therapist, I'd love to just challenge you doing puzzles together, like things like that, which are so, like, we love doing. It was so oddly satisfying, and you could like sit down and have a little drink together, whatever, and we would make it a part of our night. We'd light a candle, put on literal like Zen music, like yoga music, and do puzzles together. And we would find ourselves talking while we were in motion, where it was like this slow reconnection without pressure. So if you needed to focus on the piece, you could, but you could also focus on each other. And I think too is really, when we look at boundaries, this level of communication has to be a piece of it. And I know that you said when you talk, he gets it, but it would be even interesting for you to document the ways that you're not being fulfilled. Even just saying, like, I was having this conversation with you and like you were on your phone, or like if you find him missing things that you were talking about because he was distracted, like, you're missing out on like what I'm telling you I need. But I think
we just had a major death in our family.
Yeah.
And this death was happening for the last 2 years. And I've over and over and over again said, you got to put the phone down. We're losing time.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
And it came. He took a week off. And I said, we need this. We need you to take a day off, one day a week for us as a family. We need this. Like, you missed out on a lot and she's gone now. And he said, no, I can't.
So I think, I mean, I'm not an expert here, but when we look at addiction in general, this is just an example of addiction, and so much addiction manifests in so many different ways. And how can we support? It sounds like he's in the denial phase. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but you are doing an amazing job setting an example, but sometimes that isn't enough. And I think too, I just want to just commend you. I think all I want to do is wrap you in a hug and say, you're doing an amazing job and I care about you. That's all I want to do. Sometimes there isn't advice when we can't be together and can't work it through it together. But the fact that you're hurting and feeling alone and isolated and missing out, that's like what I care about the most.
That's exactly right. And I'm so grateful for GrowthDay because I feel like it's the main way I'm connecting right now.
Yeah. Well, stay connected here and stay in touch with us and how we can support you. I'm sure there's an expert in here. So look at the comment section right now. You are strong and loved. We give you a big hug, sending you a hug. I'm praying for you. We see you. We hear you. We love you. You are doing great. I want for you to like absorb all of that in today and just know that you have a family right here and that we will
so much
through this. Doesn't it just remind you how much we need people? We need each other. Like, man, I will never take for granted the way that the internet connects us, right? Because the internet can be a really crappy, addicting thing, but it can also be the most beautiful gift that we are so blessed to have each other in. And just you being a part of this community is incredible. Hi, Molly.
Long-time listener of your podcast. And I'm super excited. I signed up because I saw you were going to be one of the educators. So my question is about comparison.
Yes. Let's talk about it.
I know it's the thief of joy.
Yeah.
But what do you do? How do you deal with just seeing what someone else is doing and then losing confidence because you're like, A, they're doing it better than me.
Yeah.
Okay, they're already doing it.
Yep.
And why like, who's going to listen to me? Sometimes it's just very crushing, and
yes.
I don't know how to fix that for myself.
Yeah. So I don't think there is a fix. I think it is just a part of life, but there are tools around this topic. So for me, like, if you know me, I'm like this mix of like science-based. I love research, but I'm also a little woo-woo. And it's like, where do these two things come together to like bring us hope and joy? And so when it comes to comparison, I think that there's this beautiful way to flip the script on things. So for me now, as a businesswoman, if I see someone's doing something, I'm like, awesome, proof of concept. They already did the hard work. I know that there's somehow a market out there. That's good news. Okay. Now, if they're doing it better than me, I think we should switch the word and say they're doing it differently than I would. The thing that I think about all the time, because there are so many people who have podcasts. There are so many people doing what I do in a different capacity. They're doing it differently than me. And the cool thing that I've learned, and something that I hope that each person in this session finds in their life, is someone that's doing the same thing as them, and both of you are doing well. So for example, one of my best friends is Amy Porterfield. She's in business. We have courses on the same exact topics, and we're both doing well. And neither of us feels like the other one's stealing anything from us. We have each other, and we can support one another. And so when we can look at it in a way of like, they're doing it differently than I would, there's already proof of concept out there. And if I don't use my unique gifts, I'm doing a disservice to the people that would benefit from them. I feel like that's a kick in the butt of like, this person, like Jenna Kutcher, cannot serve everyone. BRENDON BURCHARD cannot serve everyone. We're not meant to be for everyone. And I think that part of it comes from we're jumping online and seeing people's chapter 10. Like I just hit a decade as an entrepreneur. What you see today has been 10 years in the making. And with the way that the internet is, we're seeing people that have the pretty presentation because they've already done the decade of the like dumpy work. And so I want for you to think about not how you present things, but how you show up. Because we're so focused on how do we present this in a way that will get people to buy in? How do we present this in a way where my sister won't roll her eyes that I'm trying something new? How do we present this in a way that looks like we know what we're doing, even when we feel like it's not? And it's not about how we're presenting it. It's about how we're doing it. Like there's a difference for anyone in here that's an entrepreneur. There's a difference between looking like a business, meaning you have a logo and a website, and being an actual business, meaning you're serving people and helping people. And I think we're so focused on looking like something that we forget about the actual serving that makes us make an impact. So I think, Molly, whenever you have those thoughts, they're going to enter. I'm not going to tell you they're ever going to go away. I have them all the time, but I try to flip the script and say, oh, she did this. That means it's possible for me too. Or, oh my gosh, she's doing this. Like, I love that. I'm going to do it differently. But I just think there's so much opportunity, and it's literally just word shifts and language shifts. And then also just really being conscious of who you let into your world. When I was researching confidence and learning that 60% of what our confidence level is based off of nurture, how are we nurturing ourselves? You being here today, that is nurturing you. You scrolling through and hate following people or following people that make you feel like crap, that is not nurturing you. And that is hindering your ability to believe in what's possible for you. So really, it's okay to curate who you are consuming and who you're letting into your life. And I think that those things have made really big differences for me. But again, it's just flipping the script. And I always think about what I would tell my daughter if my daughter said, Mommy, that girl's prettier than me, or Mommy, she's doing something and I want to do it. I think, what would I tell Coco? I tell her, it's possible, you can do it too, And so it's like mother yourself sometimes, that's like what I need to do often in my life. So I hope that helps, Molly.
Good. It made me emotional, but good.
Yes. Okay, good. Well, I'm here and I've been thinking about it a lot more, just entering another season of hopeful motherhood where I'm like, I'm in a season where I need to mother myself sometimes too. And what would I tell myself if Coco came to me with the same questions or concerns that I'm having? So I'm here for you. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Hello. Oh my God, this is a bit embarrassing.
Why?
There were so many things in today that really, what you said have really spoken to me. But the one that just made me go, oh no, was when you said about using tech to mute your inner voice.
Yeah.
And like, I'll have a really good day. I'll go off and do all the things I want to do. And then I sit down and it's late afternoon, early evening, and it's like I've got all these things that I plan to do in the evening and I just can't do them, and I just sit down and look at Instagram, and then half an hour later it's like, oh no, and then what am I going to do now? The newspaper. And I hate it, but do you have any tips for
Absolutely, I do, because I've been there and I do that. So something that's really interesting that actually very much inspired me is about a month and a half ago, my husband said to me, he said, I deleted Instagram off my phone. And I said, what? And he goes, I'm really happy in my life. Why do I need to watch other people live theirs? And I said, whoa, it was like a mic drop moment of like, wow. And he sometimes will be like, anything happening on Instagram? Did I miss anything? And I'm like, honestly, no. But as someone who I think social media has this place, I remember there was this study done with this generation that we find ourselves in that is always so connected, and people would rather be shocked every 5 seconds than to live without their phone. And hearing that realization and seeing the statistics that we pick up our phone like hundreds of times a day, and we use it kind of like a pacifier. Like I'm in toddler stage. So you think of a pacifier, you know, the baby wants to cry, you stick the pacifier in. That's what our phones have become for us. So one of the best things that we have done in our house is we have this really old chest, and it has a drawer in it. And my husband wired it so that it has a charging cable. It's like a docking station. All of our devices have to live inside of that station. They don't live on the counter. They don't live on the table. They don't live in our pockets. They don't live on our hands. They stay in that docking station. And the funny thing is that the drawer is really squeaky. So if somebody goes into it, you hear it and you're like, what are you doing? What do you need? Nothing's going on. And so we started to create boundaries like that in that sense, because we recognize that we all really struggle with it. I mean, let's be honest, like this generation, we can't even go to the bathroom without having our phones with us, right? Like that's a problem. And so what I think is so interesting is that when we think about using our devices and the media and TV and all these things almost as a way to numb, there's something deeper in there that we're avoiding, right? There's something that we're really trying to ignore, and we're turning up the world's volume and like turning down our ability to even think. I've done it in absolute seasons of my life, seasons of grief, seasons of just like questioning. But the clearer I get on my own life and think about what my husband said, like if I'm so happy, why am I looking at everyone else? It really helps to put things in perspective. So one, I would just say, start having like an out of sight, out of mind device idea. And if you live with anyone, have them help you be accountable to it. Like I'm putting my phone in the drawer, or take my phone and hide it from me for a little while, because what happens is it's kind of like running when you're like, okay, I'm going to run 3 miles. The first mile sucks. And you're like, there's no way I'm going to finish. And then something happens and you break through. With devices, the first hour or two, you're like, I bet the city burned down and my mom probably called and somebody's having a heart attack and I don't know it because I don't have my phone. And like, the more that you get accustomed to it, the more you realize I didn't miss a dang thing. You know, nothing happened while I was sleeping. Like how many of us look at our phones before we go to bed and then look at our phones when we wake up? What do we think was happening? Everyone was sleeping or we should have been sleeping, you know? And so, yeah, I would just say that. The other thing that you can do that's really helpful, there's an app, and I'm not positive it even still exists, but I have it on my phone. It's called Moment, and it tracks your usage on your phone. And now with Apple devices, you can do it inside of your own phone. They've gotten so smart. They just make everything internal now. But you can set limits. So you could say, I can only go on to Instagram for 20 minutes a day, and a limit will pop up. And you don't hit ignore. That's the part. You got to say, okay, that's my limit. The time is up. And so things like that, because it starts to just make you conscious. So actually my husband and I, every single week, we pull open each other's phones and we look at our daily usage and we see if it's trending up or down. And I think that opens up enough dialogue right there to say, is there anything going on, or how are you feeling? Or are you stressed about something? And so there are different ways to invite that accountability in. And I think accountability is the hugest piece when it comes to devices. And so I get it though. It's nothing to be apologetic for, because I think we all do it. But I think even just starting with your observation of that and that level of consciousness is going to help you start to rewrite that story about how you're going to be spending your time as you start to move forward. So you're not alone.
Thank you so much, Jenna.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember, you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.